Hello, my name's Anand and you're very welcome to today's video. Here we're going to explore the sixth element of inner richness, which is connection. So before I go into that, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm an emotional wellness coach and I support those who are weighed down with inner struggles so that they can, through the coaching together, uncover their inner richness. And these videos that I share each week are just to give you a little bit of a taste of the kind of work I do and the subjects we explore. And I wanted to be able to expand on what actually makes up inner richness. And I've picked 7 elements. And so today, when we look at connection, I'm going to explore what is it, what do I mean by connection? How would it show up in your daily life? What connection's not? What might get in the way of you connecting? And 1 or 2 tips and ideas or strategies to get you started on building more connection in your life. So when we think of connection, there's social connection, there's family connection, there's there might be, different groups who all have a shared interest. It can be a group of trees. It can be an entire system. But everything is interrelated. And I feel that I could share the dictionary definition of what connection is, but it's something that's interrelated, like an ecosystem, and when one part changes, the whole part changes. And when we think of ourselves with connection, we're currently in an age of a loneliness epidemic. And the weird thing is, many people speak about this, on the internet we're all digitally connected, but we're lonely at the same time, which is quite a paradox. But when you step aside from, when you think about connection, or when I think of human connection, it for me is 3D. And what I mean by that is when I'm seeing a person and I hate using this term, real life, when I see a person face to face, I am seeing them physically, energetically, through my senses. There's more than an exchange of written words on a computer screen. There's a non-verbal exchange. And when you're in person, it's richer. It has more context. We get more context. And then maybe the next level is, like what I'm doing here with you, is video connection. You at least hear my voice. You see my face. You can read my non-verbal cues. You start to get some idea or connection with me. And then there's written communication. Then it's just the words. And so it's almost like each layer of connection gets stripped away when we're online. And I feel that may be why there's a loneliness epidemic. And with that comes what I call island thinking. Now, this always was around, but I feel like island thinking has grown exponentially to the point that some people feel like, do I even exist? Am I here? Because actually, when you're disconnected, you're not sure if you actually exist. And what I mean by that is connection, as I said, it's an interrelationship. So if I'm connecting with another, I hear my voice, I see the feedback loop within them. When I'm isolated on my own, there is no feedback loop. There's just me, myself, and I. And for someone who has gone deep into meditation and moves into a space of aloneness, for them that's a very comfortable space. But I'm not talking about those rare individuals. I'm talking about the majority of us who derive meaning from our connection with others. I will come to about our own inner connection, but I want to just focus first on the connection with others. If we're not connecting with others, we struggle to find meaning in our interactions because we have no feedback loop. We have no, it doesn't come back from another person. And that's where we feel disconnected. So connection is a connection with others and not just people. I wanted to share this apple, and I wanted to explore what do we have in common with this apple. And you're thinking, get to eat it if I want. True, you do. The apple and I both derive nutrients, aliveness, energy from the same sources. So we are connected with the apple because the sun nourishes us, the water and the rain nourishes us. You know, we may have a different cellular structure, but we are connected. And we're part of a whole ecosystem existence that creates this apple, that creates us, that creates animals. We are all valuable. And we all contribute to each other. So when I eat the apple, I don't eat the seeds, but the seeds go into the ground that then creates a growth. I won't go into the details of what happens when I finish the apple and it's digested and comes out the other end. That in itself also adds to nourishment to other life. So we all interact with another and we all depend on each other. So we all depend on the sun, and then within the earth system we all depend on water and air and food for us, and other foods need different types of food. Thinking about the bee, you know, if we don't have bees, flowers will die. If flowers die, other life forms die, and so on and it goes. So when you start to think about, I am connected to every single thing here in existence, and I have a relationship with everything, wow, then you start to really feel connected. Even from the chair that I sit on. There are people who have made this chair that I can sit on talking to you. There are people who have made the microphone I'm using, the laptop I'm using, and they all start to interconnect and relate with each other. And when you start to see connection like this in itself starts to add meaning. Now, I also have two apples. And, you know, you can often hear the saying about the rotten apple. And this is where I think, or where one of the blocks to connection may come from. So if you have two apples together, or three or four apples, and one is bruised, or it starts to rot, and it starts to impact the other apples. Because connection isn't just, oh, you're really nice to me and I'm really nice to you and it's all hunky-dory. Connection doesn't, it's neutral. So if somebody's energy is aggressive or in my face or wants to harm me for whatever reason, you know, hurt people hurt, then their energy and whatever is going to affect me. If I don't have certain things in place to protect myself, then that bad apple will start to rot my apple. And this is why people maybe do decide, I'm not dealing with people. I'm an island on my own. This is where I'm safe. That's the first block to connection. It's a disconnection from others. And yes, the payoff is security. But the payoff is also stagnation. We only grow when we connect to and learn with others, even through the painful points. And so, is it worth the risk to go into connection with others? Or is the risk of stagnating, wondering, you know, what's my meaning? am I here being lonely, being just encased in your little world? Is it worth that? It might do in the short term, but long term, I don't believe it does. And this is why I picked this as one of the 7 elements, because when you start to connect with others, you get a feedback loop, you get interaction, you get the good and the bad, if you want to call it like that. You get the warmth and the coldness. You get the laughter and the sadness. You get the drama and the giggles. You get it all. But if you don't, and you're just an island on your own, you're like a little plant that has just cut itself off from its ecosystem, and eventually it withers and dies. I want to share something with you that many moons ago I did a degree and a master's in English literature, and I had the privilege of learning Old English, and we would translate Old English texts into modern day English. And there was one called The Wife's Lament, and it really struck a chord with me. In it, the narrator talks about her exile. She's cut out from her tribe, and she's hiding under a tree. And it's at that morning, that point in the morning where, when darkness starts to recede and the dawn is rising. And there's a word called utker in Old English, where it's her dawn sorrows. I believe that's what it means. And she's feeling like she's dying because she's disconnected. And she's not with her tribe. And she's in grief. And that's the price you pay when you become an island. You become isolated and cut off and alone and adrift. So, with that very difficult metaphor and reality, what can you do to build connection? Because we don't only connect with others, we need to connect with ourselves. And maybe that's the starting point for you of connecting with yourself. Who am I? What am I about? What do I like? What do I enjoy? And what do I value in myself? These are all really powerful things to consider when we self-connect. What's valuable about me? And there is something valuable about you. You wouldn't be here otherwise. That can be a very good starting point. And as you start to connect with yourself, and I talked previously about the element of trusting, and trusting starting with self-trusting. Self-trust, self-connection go hand in hand together. So bring in the self-trust and start to build those two together and connect with nature. Think about how much you're connected with this apple, how this apple nourishes you, and how when you eat the apple, what you let go of nourishes the soil, which then goes on to nourish other plants and insects. And when you start to see yourself as an interconnected, you're part of this interconnected ecosystem. And when you're out of it, there's something missing. I hope that can bring you some comfort if you're feeling very disconnected. And I hope that through all of the elements that I've shared so far, that they too can support you. And if you want to build connection, and you're really kind of going, how can I do this? Then do connect with me. I'll offer a free 1-hour insight call where you'll get a taste of coaching. We won't be able to cover everything, but we can cover 1 or 2 things to get a taste and see if that's for you. The other thing is you can join my mailing list, and in that mailing list I share free content that is exclusive to my subscribers. It's not shared anywhere else. or you get the first dibs. What I mean by first dibs is you get the first taste of it before then it goes out to the wider public. That's another way you can connect with me, and just, feel free to lurk around in the newsletter, get some valuable information and see is there anything there that you can take away. Because in that I also share, not every week, but most weeks I share some sort of meditative technique that can again help you build your connection. And actually, while I talk about meditation, that is the most powerful way you can connect with yourself. And in meditation, as you build your presence and awareness, you really feel, not just think about it, but feel this interconnectedness. And you start to see the world in a very different light. So I'll stop there for now until next week, where I share the final and last element of inner richness. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.